So this is how Descartes begins. He says, "Some years ago, I was struck by how many false things I had believed, and by how doubtful was the structure of beliefs that I had based on them. I realized that if I wanted to establish anything in the sciences that was stable and likely to last, I needed, just once in my life, to demolish everything completely and start again from the foundations." So Descartes is saying that he wants to start from the foundations. Basically, what he's really saying is he wants his reader to start again from the foundations. He wants to demolish that person's belief system, but that's going to take forever because you believe lots and lots of things. How is Descartes going to have the time to go through each of the reader's beliefs and try to prove to them that maybe they have a good reason for suspending judgment about those things? That would take way too long. So what Descartes does is he takes advantage of the way we structure our beliefs. We don't believe things willy-nilly. Our beliefs are not completely unrelated to each other. In fact, they often exhibit a certain kind of structure. Our knowledge exhibits a certain kind of structure, and that is the structure of a building. Some things we know occupy higher levels of the building, and they're based on other things we know. But that building can't go on forever to infinity. There's got to be a foundation to it. Just like there's got to be a foundation to a physical building, there must be a foundation to the building of knowledge. So the things down here that are closer to the foundation, if there's a problem with them, if there are reasons to doubt them, then everything built on top of them suffers from the same defects. If I've got a really important belief here, and it's all based on something that I completely doubt down here, then I should really be just as doubtful about that important belief up there. Doubt is like a disease that just spreads throughout your belief system. And this is something that you already know. For instance, what if you were to give up the belief that the Bible is trustworthy? Would that have a pretty big effect on most of your beliefs about Christianity and God and salvation and the church? It should, especially if you depend for most of your beliefs on the Bible. When you form many of your beliefs on the basis of the Bible, you're saying the Bible is trustworthy, and therefore you have a good reason to form beliefs on its basis. But if you then came to completely doubt the truth of the Bible, it wouldn't make sense to say, okay, I have no clue whether the Bible is true, but I am certain that God exists and all these other things. I am certain about all these beliefs that I acquired through the Bible, which I am now doubting. The Bible belief is more toward the foundation of your belief structure. The doctrines that you believe from the Bible are up here. Any problems with your views of the Bible should infect your views on other things. Or imagine you are pro-life and you're arguing about the abortion issue. And some pro-life people argue that the fetus is a human and that humans have a right to life, therefore the fetus has a right to life. But suppose at some point you begin to doubt whether human beings really do have the right to life. It would be strange if you started to experience that kind of doubt, but then you were still completely confident that the pro-life view is correct. Because in that case, your view that killing the fetus is wrong is based on your belief that humans have a right to life. And if you begin to doubt that belief, your pro-life belief should also be subject to the same kind of doubt. One more example. Suppose that you're going on vacation with your spouse and you get lost traveling between states. You're out in the middle of nowhere. You see a lonely gas station, so you pull in. You go inside and ask the people in there, how do you get back onto such and such a road? You're going to this place. This is your destination. And so they tell you, yeah, you're way off. This is what you need to do. And they give you directions. But when they're giving you directions, something doesn't seem right. They just don't seem to be that reliable. Maybe they're kind of snickering when they're giving the directions, or they're winking at each other, or anything like that that would give you a reason to doubt that they're giving you reliable directions. And so you and your spouse get in your car it wouldn't make any sense to say, well, now we are definitely going to get to where we want to go, but I have no clue whether to trust those people. Because trusting them is more basic than knowing how to get where you want to go. If you don't trust their testimony, then you should equally doubt whether you've now solved the problem, whether you've figured out how to get to where you want to go. Since our knowledge is structured that way, our beliefs are structured that way, all Descartes has to do is attack the beliefs down here and show that they're open to doubt, and hopefully the reader will then see all these other things. The rest of their belief structure is equally open to doubt. So Descartes reasons, and he offers some arguments about the possibility that he might be dreaming and things like that. The arguments are weird, they're strange. And it's almost as though Descartes is just kind of reasoning through something like off the top of his head. This isn't supposed to be this brilliant argument that he's thought long about, but he's just trying to take his reader through a kind of reasoning and show them, okay, how could we work this out? Sometimes he ends up making 2 steps forward and then he takes 2 steps back. He doesn't make much progress. But this is what he says before he gets started. He says, "At last I will devote myself sincerely and without holding back to demolishing my opinions. I can do this without showing that all my beliefs are false, which is probably more than I could ever manage. I can do this without going through them one by one, which would take forever. Once the foundations of a building have been undermined, the rest collapses of its own accord." So the rest of meditation 1, Descartes is trying to create this doubt in his reader. And he doesn't get very far. He ends up saying, well, maybe I have some reason to doubt what I believe. Maybe I shouldn't be certain. Maybe I shouldn't be supremely confident. But that's definitely not enough. And in Descartes' mind, that's definitely not enough to get his reader into the position where they're even willing to consider the possibility that an immaterial thing like God exists. Being less confident isn't going to put them into an intellectual free fall. He needs to get them to a state of doubting most of what they believe. So this is what he says toward the end. He says, given that I haven't really achieved my goal, and given that, as a matter of habit, it's really comfortable for me to just keep going back to what I believe and to keep having the same confidence that I had before, which is true. When it comes to habits, they're really difficult to overcome. You have to spend a lot of time working on them, and Descartes doesn't think that his readers have much time. So what's he going to do? He says, all right, let's try this. Let's imagine the worst situation possible for acquiring knowledge. The situation where we would have good reason for doubting most of what we believe. And if in that situation there are any beliefs that survive, if there's anything that I could still know in this terrible situation for gaining knowledge, that would be a special kind of knowledge. So what is this situation? He says, I'm going to imagine that an evil demon is deceiving me. So at the end of meditation 1, he says, it isn't enough merely to have noticed this, though. I must make an effort to remember it. My old familiar opinions keep coming back, and against my will, they capture my belief. It is as though they had a right to a place in my belief system as a result of long occupation and the law of custom. These habitual opinions of mine are indeed highly probable. So he admits they're likely to be true, although they are in a sense doubtful. As I have shown, it seems more reasonable to believe them to deny them. But if I go on viewing them in that light, I shall never get out of the habit of confidently assenting to them. Basically, assenting to things without really thinking through them. Being so confident that you think you don't need to really step back and think about whether what you believe is true. To conquer that habit, therefore, I'd better switch right around and pretend for a while that these former opinions of mine are utterly false and imaginary. So I shall suppose that some malicious, powerful, cunning demon has done all that he can to deceive me, rather than this being done by God, who is supremely good and the source of truth. I shall think that the sky, the air, the earth, color, shapes, sounds, and all external things are merely dreams that the demon has contrived as traps for my judgment. I shall consider myself as having no hands or eyes, or flesh, or blood, or senses, but as having falsely believed that I had all these things. I shall stubbornly persist in this train of thought, and even if I can't learn any truth, I shall at least do what I can do, which is to be on my guard against accepting any falsehoods, so that the deceiver, however powerful and cunning he may be, will be unable to affect me in the slightest. So Descartes wants us to enter into this situation with him, this hypothetical imaginary scenario, that we are being deceived by a malicious and evil demon, and that the demon is causing us to have the experiences that we're having, that this demon is causing me at this moment to have the experience of looking at this board and looking at the room, and causing me to have that kind of experience so that I believe I'm actually in a room at Arizona Christian University, when in fact, if the evil demon's deceiving me, I'm not. The evil demon's going to deceive me into thinking I'm 6 feet tall, when that could be mistaken. Because how do I know that I'm six feet tall? It's through the senses. And he's going to manipulate my senses. If you don't like the evil demon idea, if that seems a little old or outdated, you can imagine a mad neuroscientist who kidnaps you when you're a baby and hooks electrodes up to your brain. And this is a brilliant mad neuroscientist, and he stimulates your brain in such a way that he creates for you this kind of virtual reality where it seems to you like you are living your life. There's nothing about your experiences that suggest they're being stimulated by a mad scientist. And yet, all those experiences are completely misleading. Suppose you're in a lab somewhere, but you're having the experience of being in a room, so you think you're in the room. In that situation, if a mad scientist were to get a hold of us and were to put us in a position where we couldn't really trust anything, would it be the case that nothing survives as to what we could know? Because if there is something that would survive, that would be a unique kind of knowledge. That would be a kind of knowledge that has to be certain, that you can't possibly be mistaken about.